Greetings and welcome to our Sutta class in English. And today will be the 21st class. And I warmly welcome all our Dhamma listeners and our esteemed teacher, Most Venerable Bulwala Ratanasiri Thero, who, even though he's not feeling really well. He's recovering from a fever, but he's still joining today with us to deliver the 21st Sutta class. So I welcome Most Venerable Bulwala Ratanasiri Thero of Millava Dhamma Vijayarama Temple in Kurunagala, Sri Lanka, on behalf of the Sangakaya Foundation, who is hosting these Sutta class sessions to you all. If you do have any questions on suttas, or if you would like to request for suttas, please feel free to use the Google form to send us your requests on suttas. I've shared the link on today's Zoom chat, as well as the other social media platforms we are using. And you can also use the QR code that will appear on the screen at any time for you to submit your request, or if you have any questions. At the end of the session, we usually have a question and answer session in which you can also join in to get any clarifications directly from our esteemed teacher. So without further delay, I invite our esteemed teacher to start the class. Thank you.
Good evening. Let's start today our Sutta class. Today the Sutta I have selected Maha Tanna Sankhya Sutta. It is in Majjhima Nikaya. The commentary for Majjhima Nikaya is, as you know, Papancha Sudani. This sutta was delivered by the Buddha when he lived in Jetavana Vihara. A group of bhikkhus wanted to clarify what is vijnana, because there was misinterpretation about vijnana. There was a bhikkhu called Sati. Sati, that bhikkhu, he misinterpreted the consciousness. He said, when mother get pregnant, the same consciousness conceive in the womb of the mother. There is no change. The same permanent consciousness of the being conceive in the womb of the mother. He further explained the Buddha has described in that way. Buddha had described that consciousness is the permanent thing, and it conceives in the womb of the mother when she gets pregnant. A group of bhikkhus heard this misinterpreting, and they argued with Sati, but Sati did not agree with them. Sati emphasized that the Buddha has taught him in that way. The same consciousness that transmigrate from womb to womb, or from person to person. When the rebirth takes place, the same consciousness, it transmigrates without changing. That's how the Buddha explained. The Bhikkhu Sati explained to that group of bhikkhus. That group of bhikkhus, they asked or appealed Sati, don't commit sins by overcoming the Buddha, by misinterpreting the Buddha's doctrine. Don't gather sin. In that way, that group of bhikkhus appeal Sati not to misinterpret the Buddha's doctrine. But Sati did not agree with them. He kept on his concept on consciousness. That is, his concept was that consciousness was a permanent thing, like Atman, the soul, permanent things, consciousness. Now, when we talking about rebirth, we have to consider about Sāsvatavāda and Uchedavāda. Uchedavāda means nihilism. Person who believe in nihilism, they don't believe in rebirth. They refused rebirth. After death of the person, nothing happened there. There is no anyone to be reborn. So they refused rebirth, nihilist. Eternalists, they are Sāsvatavāda. They believe in rebirth, but they believe in the same Atman, the same consciousness, transmigrate from person to person. That is Sāsvatavāda, eternalism. Buddha delivered his Dhamma, or he presented his concept of rebirth without being in those two extremes, either nihilism or eternalism. So Buddha explained his doctrine of rebirth. It is neither nihilism nor eternalism. So you have to understand it. So in this Mahatanha Sankhya Sutta, Buddha has explained his rebirth, his doctrine of rebirth is either in nihilism nor in eternalism. According to the explanation of Bhikkhu Sati, the Buddha's rebirth comes under eternalism. So Buddha calling that bhikkhu sati. Buddha asked the group of bhikkhus to call in him, in the presence of him. So Buddha called in him, Sati, and asked, what is the consciousness that you explain? Buddha asked, what is the consciousness that you interpret? Or what is the consciousness that you explain? What kind of consciousness? What is the nature of consciousness that you explain? The Buddha asked. Then Buddha, then Sati, Bhikkhu Sati explained the consciousness that I am explaining is this. He says, when the person sees an object with this eye, that is the consciousness that see that object. Or then the Sati explains, when the person have vipaka, effect of karma, when the person senses effect of karma, there the consciousness senses the effect of karma. The consciousness manipulate the activities of the person. Consciousness is the main part of the person. In that way, Bhikkhu Sati explained, consciousness is the permanent thing. And he explained, when person dies, the same consciousness transmigrates to the other world. That is the consciousness that I explained. Then the Buddha addressed the group of bhikkhus, and the Buddha get those group of bhikkhus to be understand what is consciousness. Buddha explained, consciousness is dependent phenomena. It is arised due to dependent phenomena. It's not a permanent one. For instance, the Buddha took examples. When you see an object is there, then your eye is there, the doors of the eye is there, then because of that objects and eyes and the doors of eyes, because of that, depending on those things, there arise consciousness. It is called I consciousness. So I consciousness arise with depending on others. Object, those of I, there arise I consciousness. So that consciousness is not a permanent thing, it is dependent phenomena. Then the Buddha explained, when you hear a sound, sound is there, the doors of ear is there, and depending on those things, there arise ear consciousness. So tongue consciousness, nose consciousness, body consciousness, mind consciousness, and they are dependent, originated. They are not permanent ones. Without their dependent phenomena, there won't be consciousness. Then the Buddha took other examples. When we set fire by using different kinds of fuel, we used different kinds of fuel to set fire, to blow fire. If we take some firewood like mango or orange or any kind of firewood, then we set the fire and we name it, this fire is the mango fire. If the fire comes from diesel or petrol in that way, we name it depending on the fuel. In that way, the consciousness is also same. It is not a permanent thing, it is dependent, originated. It is named due to that they are dependent phenomena. In that way, the Buddha explained the nature of consciousness to that bhikkhus. Then the Buddha emphasized consciousness does not arise without their dependent phenomena. It does not arise lonely. It's not a permanent thing. It is dependent, originated phenomena. Then the Buddha explained about the 5 aggregates: Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. The 5 aggregates, the being. Rupa, matter, Vedana, sense, sanya, mental formation, sankara, consciousness, vijnana. In that way, 5 aggregates the being: Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. These 5 aggregates dependent on nutriments. Buddha explained. These 5 aggregates is arised due to nutriments, the food, nutriments. So the 5 aggregate is also, the being also dependent originated. Buddha then explained there are 4 kinds of nutriments. Kabalinkakar aharo, passo, mano sancetanika, vijnana. Those are the 4 kinds of nutriments. Kabalinkakar ahar means the physical food. Human beings and animals, birds, they used kabalinkakar ahar, physical food, to survive their body. So the human beings, animals, they originated on physical food. This physical food is arised due to craving. Buddha explained there, due to greed. These kabalinkakar ahar, or the physical food, arised. Then passo, there is another kind of food called contact, passo, like some petas. Some petas, they live in with the fragrance of foods. They can't eat. They take nutriments as contact, fragrance of foods. That is the kind of food. So the petas, they originated in passo, the contact. Mental volition. Mental volitions means mano sanchetana ahar, mano sanchetana, mental volitions. You know there are Brahmas. Some Brahmas, they don't have physical body. So such Brahmas, they use those nutriments, mental volitions, to survive their life. That is mano sanchetana. And consciousness, also the nutriment. Sat Brahmas, they use those kind of food, consciousness. Buddha emphasized all those nutriments arise due to craving. So they are dependent originations in craving. Passa, physical food, contact, mental volition, consciousness, and so on. Those are the nutriments that so many kinds of beings, they survive their life. Now, nutriments are arised due to craving. So, the main purpose or main cause forming a being is craving. The Buddha explained here, craving is the main cause of becoming the person or the being. Human beings, animals, gods, brahmas, and so on. Then the Buddha describes the origin of four kinds of nutriments using his teaching dependent originated, Paticca Samuppada Dhamma. Buddha explained his Paticca Samuppada Dhamma, the dependent originations, to explain these reasons, causes, and the reasons to become the being or the nature of the consciousness. Buddha used his doctrine dependent originations. Then Buddha explained, when you expect any Dhamma, or doctrine, you have to expect it with your own wisdom, without being in favor of the teacher or your friend or the scholar, even the Buddha. Even the Buddha asked him not to be in favor of even the Buddha in understanding the Dhamma or the doctrine. The Buddha explained, you have to understand this Dhamma as a boat. This Dhamma is not to be grasped, but to use. Buddha emphasized that group of bhikkhus, you have to understand the doctrine as you use a boat. Now you use a boat to overcome the ocean or river or canal. You use the boat to overcome, to transcend the river. After transcending the river, you don't take the boat on your head and you don't go. You don't take the boat with you. You leave the boat and you go on your journey. In that way, the Buddha's doctrine is not to be grasped, but to practice and use it. In that way, the Buddha explained them. Buddha wanted to explain the nature of consciousness and how the rebirth take place. Then Buddha explained how the rebirth take place. You know, in my previous sutta, in Payasi Rajan Sutta, you got some idea about rebirth. You paid your attention to the two arguments, for and against. For and against the rebirth. Kimpaya Sirajanya formed the argument against rebirth. Arahant Kumara Kassapa, he formed argument for rebirth. Now you are familiar with rebirth. You have got some idea about rebirth. In Maha Tanha Sankhya Sutta, I am going to explain you how the rebirth happens according to the teaching of the Buddha and the scientific explanations. The difference between the Buddha's explanation and the scientific explanation. Buddha in this Mahatanna Sankhya Sutta, Buddha wanted to explain that consciousness is not a permanent thing, it's not a permanent soul, it is dependent, originated phenomena. And what is the role of consciousness in rebirth? The Buddha explained to be pregnant mother to become pregnant, there must be three conditions Buddha presented. One is the union of father and mother. You know what is union? Union of father and mother. Then, during that union, period of mother, the period of mother must be there. The period season, that is the that clear the womb of the mother to be conceived. That is period, you know. That is other conditions, the union of parents, father and mother, and the period of mother, and the advent of consciousness. Those are the three conditions for the conceive of an embryo in the womb of mother. Buddha says in Maha Tanna Sankhya Sutta. So this consciousness, what is this consciousness? This consciousness is, you know, when person dies, there arise the last term of consciousness, the last chain, the last part of consciousness. It is called Trutichitta. It is called Trutichitta. Person dies, that Trutichitta, the consciousness, exist consciousness, that is that consciousness, then that Trutichitta, the consciousness, there is no permanent element, though material. It is not material thing. There is no materiality, corporeality. It's just some sort of energy, can't be seen, invisible sort of energy. It's no shape or no material elements. So that is the consciousness. When union of parents, father and mother, take place, her mother womb is clear and ready for to conceive embryo. At that time, a consciousness advent or dependent arised, dependent originate to consciousness. Then the rebirth take place. If there is union of parent, father and mother, if there is period of mother, but if there is no advent of consciousness, then rebirth does not take place. If there is consciousness, but there is no union of father and mother, if there is period of mother, but no conceive take place, no rebirth, the Buddha says. Any one of these three is absent, that rebirth does not take place. Now you can understand there are some healthy fathers and mothers. They are very healthy, but they don't have time. The reason is that no advent of consciousness. The advent of consciousness happens due to karma and vipaka. As a result of karma, a good child, a healthy child, intelligent child is conceived in the womb of mother. But if there is no advent of consciousness that parents they don't have time. Now you can understand how the Buddha explained the rebirth take place. Rebirth take place. The role of consciousness is very important here. The role of consciousness connect the two birth, former world and the new world. Consciousness. Now consciousness, it arises due to the karma, the person who live in the society, sometimes he commit wholesome activities. Sometimes he commits unwholesome activities. So, according to that wholesome and unwholesome karma, the consciousness conceive there in the world, maybe hell or heaven, or in the human world, or in the animal world. In that way, the consciousness conceive, find a place to be born according to its karma and vipaka, consciousness. So the Buddha explained those how that rebirth take place. You know, union of father and mother, and the period of mother, and advent of consciousness. Those are the three conditions. But scientists, according to embryology, they put forward two conditions to take rebirth, to conceive the womb, conceive embryo in the womb of mother. Now, according to embryology, sperm and ovum, sperm from father, ovum from mother, get together and form embryo. And the period of mother. Now in science, according to embryology, that ovum is combination of ovum and sperm must be there. The Buddha says the union of father and mother is the same thing. The combination of sperm and ovum. And the period of mother, Buddha says. In that way, Buddha explained three conditions to take rebirth, but scientists, they put forward put forward only two conditions. No mention about consciousness. That is the difference. In that way, the Buddha explained it. Then the Buddha explained that consciousness, it is conceived in the womb of mother, and it grows. It grows inside mother, and child is born. Then Buddha explained. Mother change her blood into milk. So the child depend on the breast milk. The Buddha clearly explained it in Mahatanna Sankhya Sutta. Mother's blood is changed into milk, on which the child is bred. Then that child, he grows into adolescence, and he uses his five faculties to get objects, and he form consciousness. Sometimes, if he take objects and arise unwholesome consciousness, his way of living is maybe painful. He can't live a successful life. So the Buddha explained that child going to contact Aramana. Aramana is they are outside. Aramana is the object that create consciousness in the person. So through six faculties, they respond to Aramana and form consciousness. If the child form unwholesome consciousness, his behavior may be bad. So, craving is arise there. Due to craving, there may be grasping in that way. When the child misbehave, his life is not be successful. But the child contact it Aramana, and by contacting Aramana through his six faculties, if he can develop or form wholesome consciousness, he can lead his life and towards Nibbana, he can practice Sila, Samadhi, Panya. In that way, he can practice. The Buddha explained it by using his Paticca Samuppada Dhamma, dependent originations, as the cessation of craving. At the cessation of craving, there is no grasping. As a cessation of grasping, there is no becoming. At the cessation of becoming, there is no birth. At the cessation of birth, there is no decay, death, pain, and so on. In that way, the Buddha explained how the person contact with this aramana and arise his consciousness and wholesome consciousness. In that way, the Buddha explained. Finally, the Buddha explained when the person practiced the Buddha's middle pathway, T6A, Sila, Samadhi, Panya, he developed morality by abstaining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and intoxication. In that way, he restrained his body and verbal actions. He developed it morality. Then he developed his concentrations, samadhi, getting away from five hindrance, kama chanda, vyapada, tina mitta, uddhacca kukkutta, vichikitta. Getting away from that five hindrance, and he developed his concentrations. And then he developed his panya, wisdom. That is, he understands tilakkana, anicca, dukkha, anattva of all phenomena. Impermanence, unsatisfactory, and non-so. He understands, or he look into that phenomena, all phenomena, in the light of vipassana, insight. He practiced insight meditation, vipassana, and he understands this tilakkana, impermanent, unsatisfactory, and non-so. And then he attained Nibbana. To attain Nibbana, in Mahatanna Sankhya Sutta, Buddha emphasized the cessation of craving. The cessation of craving is the understanding of Nibbana. You know, nutriments. The nutriments that is survive the being. The different kinds of being survive because of nutriments. Those nutriments are arised because of craving. So situation of craving, there is no being. So there is no pain or decay or anything that is Nibbana. In Mahatanha Sankhya Sutta, the Buddha explains the rebirth also takes place because of craving. That is the main cause of craving. And the Buddha explained the functions of rebirth, how it happens. He penetrated, as a scientist, he penetrated the function of that process, how it happens. The scientist, now they says the two essentials to conceive, the Buddha presented three conditions. That is vijnana. I think in future, scientists may investigate or they will find out this vijnana also, how it contribute in rebirth. I think the time is up now. Thank you for listening to me. Blessing of the triple gems be showered upon you. Thank you for listening to me. Hello?